So I want to start off by saying congratulations on the film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch it, and I absolutely loved it. So congratulations.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much. It's a weird, it's kind of it's a departure from my other films. So I have to admit I'm a little nervous about how it will be. I think that it'll find its super fans.
So tell us a little bit about that. Why are you so nervous about this film, or do you get nervous before you release anything like this?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I get nervous before I release anything. I mean, I mean, I also love this film. I'm very proud of this film. Um, but man, I mean, the haters have become more and more ruthless. Over even just over the pandemic. I mean, I feel like you make sort of like one sort of slip up and they kind of come after you. So. So I always get anxious, about how a film will be received, and I think that I love my audiences. I always want to make something that that people feel connected to. I mean, that's totally impossible. I'm a consumer of films. I don't love everything I see, but I put a lot of myself into my films in terms of even the kind of visual storytelling. I think no matter what budget I'm working with, I still want a film to feel like it's really coming from my heart and my DNA. So the film itself is kind of it makes me feel sort of vulnerable. I mean, not to the point where I'm putting liquid antacid into my coffee like Ken
Yeah.
Barber. um, but no, and I think that I mean, this film in particular, Night's End. I mean, one of the reasons that I wanted to direct it based on Brett Nevue's play was that it was about an adult man, and it's led by an adult man, and I'm known so much for my shorts and my other features about making telling stories about the experiences of girls and women, in particular teenage girls. Um, and so I really wanted to make something that was a departure from that subject matter, but still treat Ken the way that I treat a lot of my teenage girls in particular. Really look at him through a lens of tenderness and a lens of empathy, even.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope my fan base, my confirmed fan base loves it, but I really also hope that this gets me new fans.
Definitely. Did you know the instant that you saw Brett's play that you wanted to make this into a film? Was it an instant kind of thing, or was it something that sat with you for a while before you realized, no, I do want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very particular about taking on projects that I didn't write. So normally I direct what I write, or I write what I've directed. And so this was only the second film that I've ever done that was written by someone else. So, but I wanted to work with Brett. He and I had been having conversations over the past several years about finding something that we could work on together. And he does the primarily the work of his that gets produced are plays. And I'm not a play director, but this was given to me as a screenplay. And although when I first read it, it was written like a play. I mean, it was only dialogue.
Yep.
And I, really said to him, like, Ken lives alone, but we have to give him some things to do. I liked the idea that it was a chamber piece, which I think also can come out of his experience as a playwright. And yeah, it just seemed like it could be, if we cast it right, which I feel like we did. I thought like if we cast this film right, it could be something, sort of more special than it is right now on the page. And so, I didn't say yes right away. I said, this is very interesting to me. I would like to pursue this more. Let's keep this conversation going. And so Brett and I would have these kind of weekly conversations about it. And then I kind of simultaneously took it to Sam Zimmerman at Shudder and said, here's this film that I think we could shoot pretty fast and pretty inexpensively in Chicago. No expectation. Read it. If you're interested, great. If not, maybe you could, suggest where we could go, we could go elsewhere. And then I also reached out to my friend Neil Edelstein, a Chicago-based producer who produced Mulholland Drive and the American adaptation of The Ring. with Naomi Watts, and I said the same thing to him. Like, I think this could be a really cool film that we can shoot, still during COVID with a small footprint and a reasonable kind of scale in terms of both people and budget, etc. And what happened was a kind of a sort of a dream come true. I mean, I still think, like, did we really do this? I mean, Sam came back almost immediately and said, well, Emily Gatto wants to talk to you about this project. And Neil said, like, yeah, I love this script. Let's make it. And so, we be careful what you wish for, because, then not that far after, both of those yeses came in, we were, in production, for this film. And we shot it in Chicago last summer over 13 days.
Awesome. So you mentioned that this is only the second piece that you've ever directed that you haven't written. We have a lot of young filmmakers who listen to this show. How does that change your role as a director and the way that you approach a project when you haven't written the screenplay? Does it change things fairly dramatically?
It for me it does, and so I have to. I get sent scripts all the time, and I pass on 98% of them, just because I think that it doesn't the writing, the stories, the characters are not maybe they don't lend themselves to what I feel like I could bring to the project as a director. And that's not to say that they're badly written. It's just something where I feel like it's not the right fit. Like I come to scripts that I didn't write like a relationship. I mean, I need to get a crush on the script. I need to really like kind of fall in love with it, like literally like a kind of a love at first sight. And it's not to say that with the script for Night's End, it was love at first sight, but there was definitely like a crush. There was like a little bit of sparks across the room, and and so I knew that if we worked on it, that it could be a really good relationship. But I also have my instincts are oftentimes very just as focused in the opposite direction. I can read a script and just think, like, that's not for me. This is going to be a great script for someone else to direct, but not for me. And, because I also am a writer whose dialogue is very particular, I write very particular characters, I craft very particular worlds. I don't want to give that up. I mean, I even with Night's End, I hope that people who are fans of my other films, the ones that I have written as well as directed, can feel me in there. I mean, it just feels very important that that this film also feels sort of properly authored by by Jennifer Reeder. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I think sometimes a challenge for me also to be able to say to the writer, at some point you have to hand that over to me, the director, and I get to make a pass, and I have to trust that you will step away from it and know that I will, like, trust me, trust that I will do right by your word. So, also, oftentimes entering into, the process of taking on the material that someone else has written, there's some sensitivity around, kind of digesting it into your own body and kind of and turning it back out.
Yeah. You mentioned before as well, casting was very important for this film. How did you go about finding, especially for the role of Ken, the right actor to play that part? I can see the acting shots behind you there right now. Is that how you go about doing your casting?
Well, what I'm talking to you now from the from like my office at the production office, where I'm in prep for a new film. So I'm promoting Night's End, but I'm in prep for a new feature film that actually starts shooting on this Monday. So these are people that they've already done all the auditioning, and this is just the sort of, these are not tests. These are the people that we've actually cast.
Yep.
But with Ken, in particular, I mean, this is one of the things that I'd spoken to Brett about, kind of early on. I said, you know, I feel less interested in taking on the story of a sad dad who is, a kind of mopey white guy. I mean, literally, I was like, but I think if we cast this character non-white, that there could be a very interesting kind of subplot or sub-conversation about who gets to be afraid, or who is seen as feared, or like who gets to be prey and who gets to be a predator, not just in films, but also, in, let's say, in American culture in particular. So, I had asked the Chicago-based, casting company, I said, I really would love to look at, a lot of guys in this age range, who are good actors, but I would like to see, lots of men of color, and really think about, what that might look like. Gino popped up almost immediately. He did a great read. He did such a vulnerable read of Ken. Even though Ken has funny lines, like, he's not the funny one. Terry's the funny one. His friend Terry is the funny one. Ken is just this kind of earnest, thoughtful guy who's got, horrible, anxiety and shut-in tendencies. And literally, who is, Gino Walker, who plays Ken Barber, is like, 6'3". He takes up the entire door frame. He's got this beautiful dark complexion. He's a very, he's a monumental person in the room. And I knew that I wanted to, show him as Ken through a lens of tenderness and vulnerability. So, when he said yes, he would do it, I was really thrilled. And he's on a very funny show that's also shot in Chicago called Southside, that's on HBO. And so, he's got, I just think that he's like a rising, a total rising star. And then casting Thelonious Monk, who plays his friend Terry, super funny, amazing stand-up. And I just thought that he would be a great Terry, in the sense that he's just this, like, the friend that you loved since childhood, but there's no way that you're not going to get in trouble every single time that you do something with Terry. Like, he will always be the one who, if something goes wrong, it's because you were hanging out with, Terry after midnight. And then of course, Kate Arrington and Michael Shannon, play Kelsey and Isaac. And I always knew that I wanted to cast Kate to play Kelsey. I'd worked with her for Knives and Skin, and in her real life, she's married to Michael Shannon. So I said to Kate, kind of early on, I said, I know, do you think, just for the COVID of it, to keep things kind of closed off and safe, that your real life husband would want to play your husband in Knight's End? And she said, well, I'll ask him. And it was kind of as simple as that. Michael is, Kate's a Steppenwolf Ensemble member. That's a Chicago-based theater company. And Michael is one of the founders of Red Orchid, which is also a Chicago-based theater company. So even though they work back and forth between New York and LA and Chicago, they have a really deep base in Chicago. So I think they're always happy to kind of come back and work in Chicago. But yeah, this cast, I just pinch myself every time I think about who I managed to talk into being in front of my camera.
Yeah, exactly. It is an amazing cast, and like I said, it's an amazing film. We are right out of time, so I'll just ask one quick question before I go. What would you like to say to everybody out there before they sit down and watch the film on Shudder?
I would want people to not think of this as a COVID film, or even a film that was made during COVID. I really want people to think about this as an isolation film, and to really think about both the positive and the negative impacts of sort of quote unquote alone time, which so many of us have experienced very dramatically and directly, over this past 2 years. And I would also like for people to, to think about, this question of who gets to be afraid, both in film and in real life. And I also really just want people to enjoy the film. There's lots of humor in this film. It's got an ending that I hope is surprising and and terrifying. There's some odes in there to kind of classic John Carpenter. So at the end of the day, this is a genre film that's made by a genre fan, and a Shudder film that's made by a Shudder fan. So maybe that's all one needs to know as well.